Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay, so hello everybody. It's Chris Foote with Dan DeVerna, and we decided to get together and kind of jump on the bandwagon of doing kind of that split video podcast slash or vlog, I guess, slash podcast. So we're going to use this content for both. Dan and I have known each other for 10 years-ish. We worked together for almost all of that, and we're like-minded. We do a lot of traveling together, we do lots of business together, and we often have observations that are somewhat different from the norm. And so what I kind of was chatting with Dan about over the weekend and what we thought we would chat about today is what we're noticing with discipline and how business owners, kind of leaders in particular, and we're going to talk about non-leaders kind of down the road, but what business leaders are doing or not doing around discipline. The second thing is, after looking at how we're managing or how we're overseeing and observing what other people are doing, what we're doing differently now. And then the third component will basically be how we're bringing those in our circle kind of up to the standard that we're trying to put forth to the market. So Dan, thanks for coming on, and seems even weird to thank you for that, because good for you for being on here. Lucky you. So what do you? Yes, it is. So we kind of talked before we got started today about what we're noticing in the market. So what are you seeing? And Dan's in the Ohio market. What are you noticing around other business leaders in regards to mindset? I mean, we have some friends who are in the restaurant business who are absolutely doubling down, right? Are not kind of rolling over and waiting to die. But what are you noticing in general, kind of in both in Ohio, but within your clients' companies? What are they doing?
I think you see two camps. You've got the camp that is all in. So our mutual friend Musa is at his restaurant a couple hours before they open at least, and he's there cooking every bit of the food that comes out of the restaurant all day. And then at the end of the day, he locks the place up and he cleans it for another 2 or 3 hours. And that's what every day looks like that he's open right now. So he's very thin staffed, and he is all in. Like, this is what you got to do to make it work right now. I'm seeing that side of the fence. And then the other side, which sometimes it's surprising by who is in this second camp, but I'm seeing people just be like, well, everybody's doing it. So, I mean, I guess this is a good chance for me to, kind of relax, take a breath. Everybody's getting a little fat.
Right, tidy the garage. Maybe I'll do some gardening.
Yeah. And you have time for that stuff anyways. I mean, you're not doing the social stuff that you used to do. You're not out eating, you're not out drinking with your friends, you're not doing, running 5Ks and marathons or going to baseball games. I think it's very surprising to see so many people choose that, that they're doing these house parties all the time, which almost every time it's somebody with a drink in their hand, and consumption of alcohol is through the roof. And I'm, drink if you want. I'm not trying to judge on that sense, but it's kind of crazy that's taken precedence over taking care of ourselves and take care of our businesses.
They've called liquor stores essential services. And so just like a grocery store or a medical clinic, liquor stores are required to be open, obviously, to try to dull the pain that people are having. And I'm finding that here as well, but even with clients. The people that they normally do business with, right? So strategic alliances and so on, are saying, we're doing reduced hours. We're only open Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 1. And so they've kind of taken on this mindset that no one's doing business, so what's the point of being open? And I think a lot of people thought this was going to be 2 weeks, and then they thought it was going to be a month. And, we've been on a lot of calls with chief economists who are saying, this could be 4 months, 8 months, could be into 2021. And so it's not a blizzard, it's a winter, right? Like almost like the Game of Thrones, right? Winter is coming. Well, winter's here. And I think the longer that people, are interacting, and they're doing Corona parties in Canada, right? Where kids are getting together and having drinks, we're going to see this stretch out. But I don't know a lot of businesses that have put a proper corporate treasury together where they have money to sustain them, 1 to 5 years. Most of them have a 90-day reserve. And if you're not hustling in those first 90 days, by the time the fuel light comes on, those people are going to be, well, they're going to be out of business.
Like in our business, we were, we saw this coming. We knew, we've been talking about here in the States that the year of an election is always a very volatile year, but we had obviously no idea the scope of what was actually going to happen. I mean, this is far beyond anybody's expectations and continues to be. And what is the right answer? I mean, the right answer is for all of us to try to stay safe, recollect ourselves and reprioritize. But what's the point if at the end of this, your business doesn't exist, if you're a small business owner? So whatever you got to do to keep that business up and running, and taking an extra nap and drinking more is probably not or shouldn't be on your priority list.
That's a key thing. Is I've been trying to keep myself from fighting with people on Facebook, because people are like, we have to preserve life, but we also have to get the economy restarted. And the fundamental problem I have with that is that's an either or, right? So we either have to keep people protected or we have to open up businesses. And what nobody's saying is, how do we pivot businesses to be able to operate and keep people safe? And like in Canada, we have Skip the Dishes, which is like Uber Eats. There are a lot of opportunities that have come out of this. We have an old client who does physiotherapy, and people would bring their kids' family members in to do physio. Physiotherapists would work on it. Every one of her competitors has just shut down, right? They've shuttered because there's the laws in place that they can't be open. But what they've done is embrace technology like Zoom, which we're on right now. Mm-hmm. And the parent is the physiotherapist in the house while the physiotherapist is watching and instructing by video. So that's a great pivot, right? My daughter, who goes to ballet twice a week, shut down for 2 weeks. Now she's on a ballet class with her class on Zoom, where the instructor is in the big box, and then she can see all the other girls kind of on the bottom, and she's doing ballet in our dining room. And so it seems like such a small minority of companies of like, okay, we got to pivot quickly. And these ones are actually going to flourish. And the ballet school, as an example, has students who are now trying to register from remote locations who previously wouldn't have even engaged because they thought, well, we're going to have to drive 2 hours to Victoria to go to class twice a week, right? Mm-hmm. And so in this, and just like you talked about Musa, right? It's easy enough just to shutter the restaurant and say, I don't have a dishwasher. I had to lay him off. I don't have a frontline cook. That guy's in at 6 a.m. doing prep right till lunchtime, cooks, I think 11 to 7, closes at 7. He's cleaning for a couple hours, probably goes and passes out and does that 5 nights a week. And so that mindset seems to be a super minority. And I don't think people have fully realized the duration of which this situation is going to happen.
I mean, we were talking within the first week or two. I mean, it really hit us. I mean, business kind of stopped. Like we really hold on. And then the next thing I'm thinking about is this could be a while,
Right.
Just watching how slowly this is moving across our country. Ohio, I don't even know if hopefully we never really have a peak per se, but it's going crazy in New York City. It's going crazy in some of the other areas of the country. In Ohio, our governor did a really good job of kind of locking things down, but that doesn't mean that business gets to stop. We're considered essential. I mean, people, right. Money's important to them.
Right.
What the beginning of the next week, it was, let's figure out what we have to do. Let's talk to our friends that do these things already. I mean, my friend Darren, your friend Darren, client of yours, has been doing the Zoom meeting thing with his clients for a long time because nobody right. wants to drive downtown Toronto, take 15 minutes to get up to his office. It's 3 hours of their life that now he can do a 30-minute meeting. We've taken on new clients. Our referrals are probably slightly higher right now than they have been historically, which is kind of crazy. So now we're having to learn the process of client acquisition without some of the normal sitting across from each other elements that we're really become so reliant on
now. Because I know traditionally you brought, clients come in the office, they have a fit meeting, you get to know them, they get to know you, you decide if they're the type of client you want to work with, they decide if you're the type of advisor they want to work with. And so not having the ability to have them come in the office for a visit, what does that look like now? Is it done by phone? Is it done by video phone? Because I'm curious about that. But also I'm curious that when they convert into clients, how does the paperwork get filled out? Like, are you using DocuSign, or like, how does that, traditional hand-to-hand, hand-to-pen, how has that shifted over the last month?
So a lot of phone calls, like phone calls are still our primary way of communication, but we've gone to the Zoom meetings, a little bit of FaceTime. FaceTime is a good backup plan. Like the Zoom meeting's great, but some of our clients aren't familiar with the Zoom meetings yet. We have a lot of clients that are retirees or in that, just a little bit older, but they've been FaceTiming with their grandkids.
They're already socially really comfortable with it.
They're socially comfortable with it. So the idea of being able to pivot and use that tool has been really, really helpful. It's great. Like the idea that we can have those kind of conversations, be able to look at the same thing. We'll often use emails to, hey, we're going to send you over an email, have it, if you could print it out or have it up on your computer when we have this conversation, that'd be great. And then we'll send over, we'll do like a 15-minute kind of client data gathering with over the phone. And then for signatures, we can either mail them, or usually it's an email or a DocuSign. So everything's really set up to make this a lot easier. One of the cool things for me long term is going to be I won't really have to work from my office or work from Ohio as much. Ohio is a very beautiful state, but in the winter, you could do better.
Right. When I find that too, I've always liked to go in to see, especially corporate clients, see them in person, build the intimacy. And so I kind of measured that with the phone, right? And so I do 1 hour of cold calls every day. And I found that video conferencing was not something I was interested in. The only time I would do it is if a corporate client had a limited budget, rather than traveling like to New York City to do a presentation. I would do it remotely for a slightly reduced cost. And I always said, I get to save time. I'm not a day flying to New York, an hour presenting, and then flying home the next day. Like a 1 hour presentation would take me 3 days. And what I find now in the fall season, a lot of organizations are starting to book their conferences, but they're saying, rather than doing it in person, which we don't think it's going to happen, can we have a virtual offering? And so I've got one day in October where I'm in New York in the morning, Chicago late morning, and Pittsburgh that afternoon, which would never be possible before.
Yeah, right.
And so I find this to be interesting. And I still like the video conferencing, like even when we have our visits, with the other guys, with the guys within our group, I like it better than the phone, but I don't like it as much as sitting around, a lounge having a chit chat. But this probably is the new norm. And I think that's where a lot of people might be struggling socially, is they're not embracing the video conference. And so the phone isn't enough for them. And this is why you see people, out visiting with elderly grandparents that are, 2 feet away. Like it's not solo. Let's move on from, there's obviously a super majority that have decided just to lay down and hope the music stops, right? At some point, this stops before they run out of money. What shift have you made in mindset and kind of discipline? And how are you, like we talked right before we started recording, every day is, what day is it? I'm not sure. Let me look at the calendar, right? And what I had shared with you is on Good Friday. I didn't realize it was Good Friday, bad Catholic. And so I'm making cold calls and not getting anyone on the phone. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And only when I look at the, I look at the stock prices to go, oh, markets are shut. Got it. People are home. But so what are you doing to kind of keep the days from blurring just into a blob of a week? Like what's your routine? How has your routine changed other than not going out to the gym and all that type of stuff?
Yeah. So I have a very set schedule, very set routine, and my weekends, I had even a very set routine for those weekends, and I would work just a little bit, and I would make sure I would do martial arts Saturdays and Sundays. It would be like very specific and detailed, but just like everybody else, it kind of blends together a little bit. I'm rotating because we're essential. I'm spending some time in the office, usually 2 days a week. And today's one of those days. And then, but I would find myself kind of lost because I would get home and, you know, I'm not used to being home as much, and gosh, it's just different. And so what I actually went to and did this, gosh, probably about 2 weeks ago, I went to a 7-day work week, officially a 7-day work week. And I've always done a to-do list every day for the most part, Monday through Friday. And then I have a little to-do list that I would do sometimes on the weekends or sometimes not. But because I was always doing so much martial arts, I never really had to worry about the workout stuff too much on top of that. But what I've gone to is 7-day work week. I'm going to have a certain amount of responsibility that I'm going to do every single day. So no matter what day it is, I'm working out a certain amount. I'm walking a certain amount. My dogs are getting walks every single day.
One's dogs are very happy.
Have never been happier. Every time they see me rustling around the closet, they think it's go time, you know? So that's kind of fun. I have gotten a lot smarter. Like, I'm now making myself listen to a certain, like, not just books, but podcasts. So every single day. And you can do that when you're walking the dogs, when you're exercising, because in the martial arts, I wouldn't have the ability to do kind of two things at one time.
Right.
And so now I'm able to do more than one thing. Casual walk, going for a run, going to lift weights, whatever it is. I have the ability to do this, and it's actually expanding my mind. I've taken on an awful lot of information. Some of it's worthless, but some of it's really, really helpful. And I think it's feeding the mind as much as it is, you know, like trying to be more disciplined. I've gotten a little tighter on my hours of eating. So I'm still, with the ice cream in the house, I'm still a little bit lax on that, but I don't eat after 8 o'clock at night. Like, that's just something I do, and I won't eat before noon. So these are my rules, and I've tightened things down a little bit in some of those ways. How about yourself?
I read this quotation about a week into this because as you know, my book tour blew up, and so I found myself kind of racing back to Canada around March 11th. But I read a quotation a week after I got home that said, after the coronavirus, if you're not smarter, if you're not more fit, and if you don't have new tools, it's not that you lack time, it's that you lack discipline. And so, as you know, like, I'm a guy, I go to bed at 9:30, right? Like a 80-year-old. I read the paper for an hour and I go to bed, and then I get up at 4:30. I pound down a big bodum of coffee, right, in my I am the boss mug. And then I go to the gym for 5:30. And so I like the gym because it's got all the equipment, right? Like my gym now in the garage is a piece of shit, right? I've got a workout bench, I've got a couple kettlebells, a TRX, a punching bag, and some battle ropes. What surprised me is I found myself, without getting up at 4:30 every morning, I was sleeping until 6:30, right? Go to bed at 11 or 12, right? Watch movies, like on a Wednesday. Like, I never stay up late. Like, I might stay up late on a Friday or Saturday night, but I'd be staying up till, midnight on a Wednesday. And then I'm like, well, I'll sleep until 6:30 or 7 because I can't go to the gym. Now, part of me knew that was a lapse in discipline. But what I was also curious about is, how can I shift that? And what was interesting is, back when everything was the way it was back in January and February, the only time I could get in the gym was 5:30 to 7:30. And what I find now is, I'm getting up a little bit later. Like this morning, I got up at 6. But what I'll do is, right before dinner, right at 5, I'll go out and work out in the garage for an hour. And to your point about, going to downtown Toronto, it's a 15-minute drive to my gym, and then it's 10 minutes to kind of get ready in the locker room, and then you go up 2 flights of stairs, and then you work out, then you come down and you sit in the hot tub, and then the sauna, and then you get changed, and then you drive home. So it was probably 45 minutes of, on either side, just to be at the gym. And I find now I'll go through the kettlebell for, 100 reps, and then I will do some push-ups, and then I will punch the bag for 20 minutes. And I'm probably getting as good of a workout as I did before in much less time. But Last week I worked out at 8 o'clock in the morning. I worked out at 4 o'clock. I worked out one night at 9 o'clock. And so there's a flexibility that's gone into my schedule, but from the work discipline, I'm making 4 hours of calls on average a day to get the same results that I got in an hour back, a month ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when that first started, I thought, what's going on here, right? And I think I went into that cheap mindset of, oh my God, business is closed. And I'm like, it's not closed, just my markets are staying home right now. And so I have to call 4 times as much as I did before. But the people that I'm getting are people like us, like people that are like, I'm not taking a 2-week, 1 month, 4-month vacation. I got to keep things moving. And so the closing rate has increased by the amount of conversations I'm having, but I'm leaving a shitload of voicemails every day. And so it's, and what's great about it is, not mentioning any names, but I know a bunch of our competitors really well, and they have tooled down, right? They have shut down for business, and they're like, nobody's buying right now. So we told everybody, go work on your books and, go do this and that. I ain't upset about that. Like, they should totally tool down, right? Because they're allowing us to lap them. Every day they're down is a day we're making, 80 more calls per coach than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal. Like, this is a good opportunity for those that want to go get it. The competition is very thin right now. Probably
there is no real competition. Yeah. I would guess, and kind of going back to what we talked about before, 90% of most people's competitors have stepped out of the race. They've just gone on the sideline. They're in the pit. And so you can just keep on doing laps to kind of catch up. And we found this in 2007, 2008. Those were our biggest growth years during the financial crisis, is most training companies had kind of stepped out, and we doubled down, right? And we went from 3 people to 17 in 1 year, the next year 54, and so on. Like, we continue to kind of get bigger and bigger because we had no competition. And granted, the market probably shrunk for us by about 70%, but that 30%, we had no competition. And so we got to take it all. And so it was awesome. What about eating? So you talked about ice cream, because I found that first week or two, I'm like, fuck it. I'm not going to the gym. I'm going to carb up a little bit, and I'll go out for walks. And then I caught myself, and right now I'm on day 8 of 100 days of discipline, which is exercising every day, doing certain reps every day, and then eating clean. What are you finding with the food? Especially, like, are you guys cooking more at home? Are you doing more takeout? What are you doing there?
Definitely cooking more at home, and but still doing enough takeout. But the funny thing is, at my office, there is no ice cream.
Oh, no ice cream machine.
But at my home, there is.
Are there any Pop-Tarts at the office?
There's no Pop-Tarts right now. But I'll tell you that, like, one of the issues is at work, because I knew that 5 days a week, for sure, I was going to eat extremely clean, because I put at my office the things that I wanted to be able to eat and wanted to have quick access to. So at home,
good snacks, healthy snacks at the office.
That's right. Yeah. In the freezer, we get these, I get these little shake things that are like mixed up, Daily Harvest, I think it's called. And you pick these things and they deliver them to you every week, and you put them in the freezer, you mix them with some almond milk, blend them up, boom, you're good to go. But at home, you open up the refrigerator or freezer, you can have anything you want in there.
Ice cream, leftover pizza.
Oh,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Hot wings. What do you want to eat? So I still have to dial that in a little bit. So I've tightened that eating window, but now the next phase is definitely going to be the actual restriction of certain foods, because that's going to have to be the way it is.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but because things are in such flux, the discipline is actually bringing me peace. And so, like, the regimented and self-regimented, all right, it's all self-discipline, but actually putting that 100-day thing in place actually brought me more calmness. And so I'm wondering, like, do you find that as well, that this, like we always say, Jocko Willink, who says discipline equals freedom, but are you finding that right now you actually need more structure than normal because the world isn't giving you structure, right? Like clients normally would give us structure in times that they can meet. But now you could video conference first thing in the morning. Like they're not going to drive to your office at 7 a.m., but they might do a video conference, or maybe in the evening. Like how are you approaching that to kind of give yourself, you know, almost tracks to kind of run on right now?
Well, I'm a big guy that likes to check that box that I got it done.
Right.
So every single day doing that to-do list and then making that list of things I want to get done, even as much as I like the ice cream, a way bigger highlight of my day is when I get to highlight something. If I have just 5 to 7 things that are crucial things I want to get done today, and if I get to where I get 5 or 6 of those done, or geez, heaven forbid, I got them all done in a day, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Like that is a huge rush for me to be able to say, boy, I did all these, I got everything done today that I wanted to. And it doesn't happen a lot because I very consistently I think it's going to take this much time and it takes this much time to do those things. You know, I've been working out at my house, like working on projects. I'm not a handy guy. Like that's not something I normally do, but it's not a big deal to pick up all the sticks in the yard when you're listening to a book. You know, you're just walking around, you're doing it. I think I walked, I don't know, like one day, I think it was Saturday, I walked 16 miles, like just walking around. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so going back, and so when you talk about the 5 things, is that your billfold thing that you use?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And
yep.
So maybe tell people what that is.
Yeah. So every single day, so on my work days, I have a big to-do list. Like many of us have to-do lists that you'll never be able to accomplish. If you batten down the hatches for 2 weeks, you couldn't get it all done. But I will take anywhere from 4 to 7 crucial things that I want to get accomplished today. And I take a little Post-it note and I flip it together. And then I write my goals on one side. So I've got goals that literally will be on that list all year unless I accomplish the goal. Every single day I'm writing my goals. Every single day those are written there. And then on the other side, I put my 5 to 7 my list of things to do that day. And then I just take a highlighter and scratch them off as I get done. So, you know.
And it feels good as you bang them off.
Great.
Like,
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Really big deal. Like sometimes it's the highlight of the day is to say, oh man, look at all these things I got done today. Like this was on Easter, I really missed seeing my grandpa. Like my grandpa's 96. You know, I'm out seeing.
Veteran of which war?
World War II.
World War II, yeah, okay.
Yep. So he was just a baby, you know, younger than my son that's in the Navy now, younger than him by like 5 years when my grandpa was in the war. So it's kind of hard to believe. But you look at your situation and you think about, even though we're in this restricted time, I was talking to my son, Drake, who was on that Roosevelt, and he's put in a hotel room for the next 14 to 17 days with Wi-Fi, bottled water, a meal brought to the outside of his door, and some iced coffee, and he's not allowed to leave the room. So no human interaction except for like FaceTime, or maybe, I don't know, looking out into the, out on the balcony. But like, I have it pretty good.
Right. Well, let's hop, because we're running out of time a little bit, but let's hop about, so, you know, the people that are responsible to you. So the people that report to you, how do you find, or what are you noticing around their mindset? Because I'm finding, like with my team, I'm doing probably more regular check-ins, and I keep on reminding them of the opportunities that are right in front of us. What are you finding? Are you finding, because of course the people that work with you have friends that would be representative of people that go, geez, you know, I got a couple of weeks off, I'm getting my $1,200 check. I mean, I don't know if that is going to make a difference to anybody, but what are you noticing with, you know, the people that report to you, the other people in the office? What's their mindset looking like?
Well, I think there's 2 different sets. So we've got 30 some people that work here in our office here. And so most of them are working from home every day. So it's tough for me to know what a lot of them are doing, and a lot of them are not my concern. With my direct team, we've gone to meetings, phone call meetings every single day.
With each other or with clients?
No,
Okay.
with each other. So every single day, you know, we had a time that we had slotted, and then we thought, well, that time's good, but why don't we change it to this time? And so, like, my team is on the phone every single day at 10:30. Like, that's a standing meeting, so we can check in. I think it's interesting because in the future, this is going to change the way we do business. I think a couple of the people that work in my office aren't going to need to be in my office all the time. Like, they might.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, I really have to come in to get certain things or to drop things off, but I think I could work from my home, you know, almost 75 or 80% of the time, which sounds great. And I think in some cases, I'll tell you, my office manager, Lynn, I think she's working harder from home than she ever worked coming into the office. And she worked hard coming into the office. Like, her office hours have expanded just because it's, you know, kind of right down the hall, if you will.
Talking about with my gym in the garage is, you're like, at 7 o'clock at night, you're like, well, I can bang out a couple of pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Right. Are you guys doing, like, would you and CJ be on a Zoom call with a client? Like, are you guys doubling up on some of those so that they can see two of you? Or do you have to be in the same location?
We could do it that way. With our phone calls, most of our phone calls were in two different locations. So if we have a phone call with a client at noon, at 11:58, I'm calling CJ or he's calling me, and then we're going to be directed to the client soon after that. And usually there's an email that's got whatever information we're going to be talking about with the client. I think we have one. Well, I think we have 3 or 4 today, actually. So today's a pretty busy day. But we'll do a lot of those phone calls together. And then at some point with these people, because these are kind of newer people, most of them right now. And then CJ and I will break off and we'll do our phone calls to our clients. We've made, I think about a month ago, when the market was really getting turbulent, I think I tracked 101 phone calls on a Thursday, which,
that's
to my knowledge,
inbound calls.
Outbound.
Outbound calls. Got you.
Outbound phone calls, 101. I think at least that's the most I've ever made that I'm aware of. So that was a long day, but I mean, it was hitting the fan that day for sure. Like, the market was going crazy. We were wanting to make a lot of changes to portfolios. And so we were definitely calling. But I think that's part of why we're getting so many referrals.
Being responsive. And again, even in your industry, you know, we work with a lot of investment advisors. I would say about 70-80% are turtling, right? They send out the odd email communication to their clients, and they're just battening down the hatches going, you know, I hope the bad man stops. And so being responsive, you should be rewarded with new clientele. Okay, before we go down, 3 pieces of advice you might have for business owners that are watching this on kind of the mindset or things that they can be doing to kind of make the most out of these turbulent waters, as you said.
Well, I think setting yourself up to succeed right now, if you can succeed through this, and just sometimes you got to batten down the hatches. And like when we talk about Musa, a dear friend of mine, like this is one of those situations where he's going to get to take a look at the way he has done things historically and now the way he's got to do them right now. And this gives you a good excuse to clean up your act on some levels. Like, I know one of the things I'm doing personally is I looked at my American Express bill, which is down significantly from its usual. But I'm also saying, you know, do I really need to be paying for that? Like, is that something I need to be doing? And so I think we can do that also with personnel. Like, some personnel, you are going to be able to run the ship a little bit thinner, and should. So I think that would be another good thing. I think having the mindset that many people in Ohio that I've talked to have scares me. Our government is stepping in and saying, we're going to give you some loans, and if you appropriate those funds the way that we tell you, which is almost never right, from the government, right? Then we will forgive these loans. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're leaning on money from the government that they're going to give you based upon, I think it's, 2.5 months salary for your employees, like, what are you going to do when that money runs out? Because it will. Like, this thing's, we're already a month in of being shut down. It's going to be longer than another 6 weeks. It's going to be a while that your business is going to be affected. You might be open, up and running, but to think that influx of cash, that's a very temporary situation. So don't sit on that and say, oh, I'm good because I got that. So
I could coast with that.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. Coasting is always a bad idea, and then the last thing would be to kind of look at the overall things in your life that make you happy. I think for me personally, this is going to be a big piece. I know that I really love what I do for a living. Like, that's a blessing. But since I've been talking to people so much, even more than usual, I've realized how many people aren't. They love the escape from their business, and they don't have the money put away from their business or from their job to be able to in the future be in a good spot. They're in a shitty spot now, and this hasn't even really played out yet. So my advice would be, if you don't love what you're doing, you need to find something you love doing. Because when I go to work today or tomorrow, when I don't leave my house, but I go to work, I'm loving what I'm doing. I mean, what we're doing here is what I'm doing. And I think this is a good opportunity for people to kind of retool themselves and repurpose their whole life.
You can look at it as getting kicked in the teeth or getting braces.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dan, listen, thanks for coming on today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some of Dan's information, with your permission, Dan, down in the description of this video, as well as some books that Dan's written that people would be interested in. And Dan, you work with clients right across the United States, right?
That's
Not
right.
just Ohio. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, his information will be at the bottom. If you enjoyed this, please leave a note below, or if you have questions, I think questions especially related to what Dan said, put them down in the comment section. I'll get them to him. He might be open to answering some of those, and we'll kind of respond to those. But in the meantime, get after it. I mean, gladiators eat first, and so it's up to you to make it happen. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.